What's up everyone, Shirley here. Today I thought it'd be fun to do another Mythic commentary. I haven't done one of these in a while. This time it'll be for Zek'voz and Uldir on Mythic. Now the fight doesn't change a whole lot between Heroic and Mythic, but there are some differences to point out, and this one is all about extreme uptime. Not that you would ever have downtime on any other fight if it were preferred, but this one more so than others, and I'll explain that in a second. Starting off though, I'm running the standard talent build, doesn't really change in Uldir between fights. I am running crit food on this fight actually, because I'm at the break point right now with the Uldir buff that my stat line is so close between crit and haste that depending on what food I eat, I can actually swap the Uldir re-origination buff between the two. And I decided to try out crit this time. Normally I'd be running haste, but I wanted the crit for the ads. Anyway, getting back to the fight here, it was pretty unfortunate that I got the Roiling Deceit there, but I didn't drop it in the group. You just leap out for that. But back to uptime here. So you want to be using your Blade Storm and Warbreaker on cooldown more or less, but it's really important for that first one to get it out as fast as possible and to keep spending as much rage as possible for this reset that's happened right here. So you want to go ahead and use your second Warbreaker immediately when it comes up during that first Surging Darkness to get that haste buff so you can continue to spam rage. That way you have Blade Storm and Warbreaker back up for that first set of big ad spawn there. And that makes a huge difference, because if you're not having really good uptime on the boss, then you will actually be roughly 5 seconds behind if you don't, continue to spend rage out, and that's no good because that's a lot of damage wasted. That and those ads really need to die. After that here, going up to kill those two ads, we're going to spread out and wait for this I-beam to really go away during the Surge of Darkness before we go and hit that third ad. We're just going to leave it CC'd for now. But luckily, we didn't get an I-beam here in the giant stack of melee. But we're going to go ahead and hit the ad here. Now, I just Warbreaker right in between there. I wanted to tag both the boss and the ad, and it's okay to go ahead and use your Blade Storm here as long as you're using it right on cooldown. And that's a big theme of this fight, is you really don't want to hold your cooldowns. If, as soon as they're up, you want to be using them, because this is going to allow us for our next Blade Storm for the next big set of ads, and there's a break point, kinda, during the second set of these big spawn, because we're going to get a darkness overlap right after the ad spawn, so we're going to really want to push damage there and get those all dealt with before the darkness, because they of course slow you, and it's hard to deal with that during the darkness, and it's an easy way for people to die. So once again, we're just maintaining a lot of uptime here with a loose spread for the I-beam that's just coming in now. And the general rule of thumb here is if somebody gets it, they should really just stop moving and let everybody else spread out around them. So now this is the big breakpoint ads. I'm going to go ahead and use my second potion here. We're going to lust here because we really want to just burn all these ads immediately before this darkness really gets to be too much of a problem. Now we didn't get them all cleaved down before the wave actually went off, but it wasn't that big of a deal because we got good lucky RNG on the wave itself. Now right here, I am following the boss with the tanks, watching out for the Void Lash there, hitting him. Now, I was supposed to go and interrupt this ad here, but I went the opposite direction as everybody else because I wanted to keep hitting the boss, so I did end up missing an interrupt on this ad, but we got the second one. Wasn't that big of a deal, nobody died to it. But it is something to bear in mind. If the tanks could have drug him back the other way, it would have been a little bit better for me to actually get there in time to interrupt. But, it's my bad either way, I suppose. And this part, it's just spreading for I-beam once again, waiting for this last ad to kill it. Now, I tried to cheese my Warbreaker right there in between and hit both targets again. I ended up missing the ad with it. It was just barely out of range. I did clip Zek'voz with the Warbreaker, so it wasn't entirely wasted. I did get some damage off of that Blade Storm on both of us because the hitbox on Blade Storm is so big that I was at least hitting him in the back and applying deep wounds to him during that Warbreaker debuff. But I really wanted to, clip them both if I could. And at this point, you're basically just going to be using Warbreaker on cooldown because there's no more big ad waves that spawn. So you just tunneling the boss, getting as much DPS in as you possibly can, keeping up that haste buff, keep spending rage, because you want to be using it basically on cooldown. However, during the last phase, you can optionally save your Blade Storm for the people that end up getting MC'd during this last phase. Now, I would probably recommend that because, you know, hitting 2 targets with Blade Storm rather than 1 makes it definitely more worth it. And that's why I opted right here. I take that back. I didn't save it. I was just using it for the Rage Cat because I used my CS right there, and I was trying to get in as many executes as I could during the window rather than Blade Storming. But I did end up running out of Rage, but it's not that big of a deal because we can go ahead and pop Sweeping Strikes and cleave down the first person that gets MC'd. Now, I did go ahead and use my Warbreaker on him because I wanted to, once again, cleave off that damage of Warbreaker. And another thing is, even though with these people are getting MC'd here, so like, I'm gonna go ahead and put Deep Wounds on him and help cleave him down, but that's just because I didn't have Sweeping Strikes or Blade Storm back up during that. If you have Sweeping Strikes up as an arms warrior anyway, you're gonna want to keep hitting the boss instead of like hard swapping on the MC player. So right here, I'm gonna pop Sweep and hit him with some executes instead, because it's more damage, single target even, on that add to Sweeping Strikes executes into him rather than, you know, hard swap and start Mortal Striking and overpowering. And, you know, this is the bread and butter of arms, is just to tunnel out as much executes here as you possibly can. Now, we're under 20%, so we're getting that huge haste bonus off of Warbreaker now, because it scales after 20%. We're going to go ahead and save that Blade Storm during that window to use it on this next set of adds here. I'm not going to go ahead and Sweeping Strikes because he was going to go down 2 globals anyway. We're going to go ahead and save that for the next guy that's going to get MC'd. One thing to remember here is you don't want to be just spamming out executes. You want to remember to use your overpower buff to keep that rage smooth out this whole time. Now, I was trying to grab the bouncy ball here, but unfortunately I didn't get it for this last little push to the end. And somebody else did, but we still ended up doing really solid damage. I like this fight a lot. I hope you guys enjoyed, and that's about it for Mythic Zek'voz. If you have any questions about the fight, please leave them down below, and I will see you next time. Peace.